need you. So let your love reign over everything. Take the one, I'm content. Just Jesus. Just Jesus. The way, the truth, the life.
What's up everyone, Vu of Envu Films, and I am back with another idiotic video for you to watch. And yes, I am Asian. No, I do not have coronavirus, you racist piece of first world trash. And speaking of coronavirus, that's why I'm wearing a hat, because I can't go outside. We're under this stay-at-home quarantine, whatever, in Maryland right now, and haven't been able to go out and get a haircut from my Chinese barber, so my hair is looking like 100% unadulterated trash. So go ahead and wear this hat to spare you the eyesore. And also, because we are here with these two gimbals that I will discuss in just a moment, I'm also selling a bunch of stuff on eBay because, hey, I'm home, I got stuff to do. So it's Crane M2 currently on sale. Actually, it's already sold, just needs to be shipped out. But yeah, today we'll be discussing something that I've been promising and a lot of people have been asking me about. It is the Fiyutech AK2000S versus the Zhiyun Weebill S. As you all may know, my Weebill broke, and this is the actual one that broke. And Zhiyun did send me a new one, but I don't want to give them too much credit because they're sending me a new one, I think, because of, you know, I have a somewhat of a social media presence. It's not going to be the same way for all customers. Most customers are going to have to go through RMA and all these things, and they may or may not have a new one sent to them. Mine broke, the locks broke, which happens on a lot of Weebill Lab and Weebill S's, and luckily enough, I had a new one sent to me. And you know, currently I've used the Fiyutech AK2000S probably a handful of times, maybe 4 times now for 4 gigs, and the locks have been holding up, but I have not treated it nearly as rough as I've treated the Weebill S. So in my opinion, just from how it feels and all that stuff, these locks, you cannot transport a heavy body and lens combination with the locks engaged and it not breaking. These locks are mainly for you just lock them up and stick them in your backpack or something like that. And you might be able to transport a light setup with the camera mounted on, with the locks on, but I would not recommend putting a heavy setup on and locking it and walking around with it, because it will break and you'll get really pissed off, as I did. So with that being said, I'm not gonna go through all this crazy stuff, right? You know, we've all seen the YouTube reviews of these gimbals at this point. We know how they work. We know, you know, the features and all that stuff. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there for that. As a filmmaker, you know, I'm hoping that you're looking for my opinion, because I actually use these gimbals on multiple shoots a year, 30 plus weddings, commercial shoots, etc., etc. So which one do I prefer? Based on build quality alone, and if I'm just using relatively small setups, not like big lenses such as this Sony a7 III with 2470 DG DN. DN stands for these nuts. I wouldn't use the Fiyutech AK2000S with this setup. It could balance it at 24 millimeters, but something just feels weird about it. Like the overall weight The AK2000S should be able to handle it, but I just don't like the way it feels. Now, if you're balancing this with a, what is this? A 35 mil, a 55 mil, or 24 millimeter G Master, this gimbal I would recommend for those of you who are going to be using lenses of this size. All right, I use the Fuji X-T3 with the 23 millimeter, 35 millimeter, and 50 millimeter f2 lenses. It works fine on this gimbal, and I like the way it feels. I like the way it handles. You know, there's some things that I think when you buy a gimbal, whether it be DJI, Zhiyun, Feiyutech, there's always going to be like slight differences between the way the motors are. Not to say that one is better than the other. It's just something that you have to get used to, and then there's sometimes you might prefer one motor more than the other. I've always preferred the way DJI program their gimbal motors, more so than Zhiyun or Feiyu. I don't know what it is that DJI does, but DJI, the Ronin S, is just a very strong gimbal. It's just too big. I have one. It's right there. It's just a massive gimbal, which, for like more short-term use, it's okay. But if you're trying to use it the whole day, it's just way too much gimbal for me, mainly because I am not a bodybuilder. So if you're going to be using smaller setups, A7 III, Alpha 6600, 6400, with lenses like 24, 35, or 55 millimeter, I recommend you just get the AK2000S. I just feel like it's a better built gimbal. It just feels really nice, really solid. Everything's just really cool about it. It's just, I really love the way this gimbal looks overall. I really love the way this gimbal looks and feels overall, and I think the motors are strong, and it just works. There has been some issues. I've noticed sometimes the battery does kind of like drain really quick. I don't know what the issue is. I might have to like update firmware or something, but this battery does drain kind of fast. Like, it's supposed to last 12 hours, but it does. It probably lasts you a solid 6 hours or something, I think. Even with the lighter setup, I think it's not as good. Now, if you just want like the strongest, most nimble, most compact gimbal you could possibly find, the Weebill S is your go-to. I'm not talking about like all these extra like gimmicky specs that 1% of gimbal users use. I'm just talking about you turn it on and you want to use to film something. The Weebill S is the best gimbal at this size, at this gimbal strength. All right, it can handle the 2470 DG-DN with the Sony A7 III, no problem. This is not a light setup, and it handles this lens and body combination with no issues at all. And the gimbal's easy to use. It's obviously you could also mount all these other lighter lenses and stuff like that. It's just rickety. It just doesn't feel that nice. Just makes way too much like sounds and noises. Just doesn't feel as nice. And if you just want a gimbal that motors work, just turns on and is strong, the Weebill S is for you. There has been reported problems of it having issues with like leaning, and like there's so many firmware updates with them, and those are true. I have those problems also, but I use gimbals knowing that they're not perfect, and in post there's always gonna have to be work done. Any gimbal I've ever used, no matter how well I balance it, no matter how I film with it, I always have to do some type of post-production work, and that is what is to be expected. There's a trade-off. They're handheld, they stabilize your footage. At least it is usable. At least you could do things like warp stabilizer or do some slow motion, whatever it is, to get these images, the images from these gimbals. Even the Ronin S and Ronin SC, all that stuff, like they're all not gonna be perfect. The only gimbal that is gonna give you like just straight out camera, I think, like just ready to go perfect footage, no slow-mo, no warp stabilizer needed, is probably the Ronin M. But there's also a trade-off with that. You have to put it on a stand, you have to hold it like this. It's like, it's not run and gun. And I think these gimbals here are really more for run and gun use. So yeah, if you just want like the strongest, the best built gimbal, the best looking gimbal that could balance decent amount of weight, and you know you're not going to be needing like to be using these bigger lenses, I would just go with the Feiyutech. It's like $350. Now if you know you're going to be using lenses this size and you just want a compact gimbal as well that's just strong enough to handle it with no issues, no qualms, then I would get the Weebill S. So that is my opinion on that. I'm not sponsored by any of these companies. I don't get any of this stuff for free. This is just based on my personal use, using them professionally on the field, and this is just using them as gimbals. This is not like doing all like this tracking and all that, like, you know, a cell phone app action and all that stuff. This is just using them as a gimbal. If you're looking for me to review like all this other stuff, I don't do that. I don't use it often. I'm not qualified to be reviewing and talking about that. I literally, the way I use gimbals, I pick it up, I turn it on, I need it to be stable. That's how I use gimbals, all right? So I'm reviewing it based on that. If you're that type of filmmaker, you're like me, I hope this is helpful if you're trying to make a purchase decision on these gimbals. So just really quick, some other nuance, pros and cons with these gimbals is this thing has like a full touch screen, which I mentioned before. It is great. I prefer that over just like these, you know, using buttons on the Weebill S. This thing comes off. This little handle comes off, but you need like Allen key. The Allen key rests here, and there's a magnet here, but I seem to have lost mine. I don't know what happened to it. Probably just fell out. That's gonna happen. And you know, Weebill S, you're gonna have to like switch the handles on and off, and you're also gonna have to invest in an additional handle for it. If you want to have a tripod and a handle at the same time, you're gonna have to invest money into buying an additional handle. The one I have here is a small rig one. This is a great handle, but it's also like 30 bucks, 40 bucks or something like that. So that's an additional investment you have to make into the gimbal, where this one just comes with everything. So that's another thing to think about when you're trying to buy one of these gimbals. I really hope that helped you make a decision. You know, I know buying a gimbal is like the hardest decision on the planet, but I hope that helped. Again, just keep in mind, I think this battery is just iffy as crap. Like sometimes it seems like it'll last long, other times it starts draining. It's like halfway gone after like 3 hours of use, which tells me it might only last 6 hours. The Weebill S, usually I get like a solid 10 hours of it. Sometimes it drains fast too, depending on the setup I have on it, but I've never had an issue having it last over 8 hours. So that is also something to think about. Anyways, guys, till next time, stay safe, wash your hands, you know, don't be coughing on people, don't go to the store coughing on groceries, you idiots. Till next time, line up.
I need you. So let your love reign over everything. Take the world, I'm content, just Jesus.